confident, taking every step in obedience while I'm waiting. I will serve you while I'm
Hello, and welcome to my hearing journey. I am Chad Denning, and this is my story. So over the next few minutes and segments, I'm going to break down my story into little individual parts so that you don't have to sit here and listen to one big, long story, but you'll be able to come back and check out individual segments of what's happened to me over the past few years. Thank you for joining me, and welcome to my hearing journey. So pretty much I grew up a normal hearing person all my life, and my childhood was normal. I played sports. I did everything that most everybody else would do as a child, and no one in my family had hearing issues. Actually, my brother was a musician, and so it was like, no big deal. I never thought like I'd ever in a million years to have to be sitting here saying, you know what, I'm deaf, and but I am deaf, but I can hear. So what am I really trying to get at? Well, the way this story goes is in 2009, I was getting ready to go on vacation, and I got a normal head cold. My ears got plugged up, congested, but it wasn't going to stop me from going on my trip. So jump in the car, I take off, and I was gone for a week. And when I got back, my hearing cleared, my congestion went away, but my hearing never came back. And I was like, what the world is going on, But at that point in time in my life, I didn't have insurance, and I really wasn't taking care of business like I should be. So I just let it go. My ears just screwed up. But I got one good one, so I could still hear just fine. And that was great until, 3 or 4 years later, fast forward to 2012. And I was in an accident at work. I got hit in the head and caused a few other problems. And in the next couple of weeks, I noticed that I had this loud ringing sensation in my ears, and everything would get real distorted, and it was very hard for me to hear. And I was like, what the heck is going on? I was like, I'm going deaf, I got to get to the doctor. And fortunately, from the accident, I was already seeing a regular GP, so that GP referred me to an ENT, and I got to go have an audiogram, and audiogram showed that my low frequency hearing had just completely dropped out. I mean, it was like 60 or 70 decimal, and went to about 1 to 2K, and it jumped back up to 4K. I mean, at 4K, it jumped all the way back up to regular 30 dB or so, and I was like, wow, what's going on with my hearing? And well, that doesn't look normal. And she goes, no, that looks like something called endolymphatic hydrops. And I was like, endolymphatic hydrops? I'm like, what kind of name is that? And she said, well, it's when you have too much fluid in your vestibule, and the endolymph fluid puts so much pressure in the inner ear, and it causes you to lose low frequency hearing. And she goes, they call it Meniere's disease, but right now you're not showing the symptoms of vertigo, so I can't necessarily say that you have Meniere's disease. And so I got back to my ENT, and the ENT said the same thing, and he's like, well, there's not much we can do, but we can get you some hearing aids, and we'll try to help you out that way. So over the next 6 months I waited, got all my approvals, and got back to the audiologist, and I got a set of hearing aids, and I was doing great, and except for the tinnitus was getting worse, and it would last for longer periods of time. It was only a couple of weeks at first, and then it went to months at a time, and then it went to, it didn't go away. And my ENT said, you know what, Chad, I'm going to refer you to University Hospital in LA, because you're a little bit outside of my specialty, and they might be able to help you more with what's actually going on in your ears. So I got sent to USC. It took me a little bit to get in, but that's okay, because the delay happened, and I just so happened to get a great otolaryngologist down there. His name is Dr. John Naparco. Many of you will know who he is, but so we started working together, trying to figure out what's going on. We maybe talked about doing a Baha at first, but really I didn't have enough residual hearing to use a Baha, so that got pushed aside. And I was with him for at least a year, before I started having greater issues. So let's fast forward to July of 2014. And in July of 2014, my tinnitus really started to rage, and my hearing aids weren't sufficient enough for me to really hear anything anymore. And it was just a scary time for me. I was like, wow, with my hearing aids, I can't hear. I mean, I'm going deaf, and I don't know what I'm going to do. So I'm pushing the panic button, and I'm calling the doctor. I get back into Sam. He says, you know what, Chad, let's do another MRI. We'll do one more MRI, and then we'll check you out and see what's going on in there in case you have a fast run, tumor on your nerve, applying some pressure to, make you lose this hearing. And so I had my MRI, and the results came back the next week, and they said, nope, you have, he said, actually, you have, from a medical sense, a perfect brain and ears. There's no problems, no calcification, no tumors, no anything, no vascularity problems. You've got plenty of blood flow to your ears. But, you're having more of those symptoms, like we don't want to call it Meniere's yet because you don't have vertigo. I had the areal fullness in there, a little frequency hearing loss, the severe tinnitus, but I was missing vertigo, so they wouldn't actually call it Meniere's. And like a week and a half later, after my test results came in, it was like late September. I just got to church, and I was like, I'm not feeling very good here. And I was like, actually, it felt like my head was swinging and I was falling backwards. And I was like, I hope this goes away. I don't know if it was something that I ate or whatever it was, but it was just, it wasn't good. And I knew that I was kind of in trouble, and I wasn't sure what vertigo really was, but I was going to learn what it was real quick. And I did, so I jumped in my truck, and I barely made it home. And I got home, I ran in the door, was like, rip my shirt off, go in the restroom, and it was, vomiting from the spinning, and I ended up spending the next 2.5 hours sitting on the edge of my bed, leaning my head over so that I didn't spin. I couldn't take any light. I couldn't take any noise. It wasn't a headache. It was just, if I heard something, the room would spin. And I was like, whoa, and ended up leaning over a trash can for hours and hours and hours. And finally got to the point where I could lay down and take a break, and called USC the next morning. And that's when they put me on steroids for the first time. And boy, I love steroids. I think we all know how that all little deal goes with steroids, but it's not a very fun little thing to do. But so Dr. Naparko was out of the office for a month on vacation. So the whole month of October, they just kept me on steroids to keep me balanced. And I was getting ready to start school, and I was struggling to hear. It was just a totally incredible thing, and I didn't know what I was going to do. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm almost deaf. I could barely understand anything people were saying to me. And Dr. Naparko finally got back, and I saw him in the first week of November, and they did what they call an intratympanic injection of dexamethasone, or they put a needle inside my ear, and they filled my ear up with steroids to saturate the window. And it was amazing. 48 hours after they did that, my hearing kicked right back on. I didn't even have to wear a hearing aid in this ear. I would just run around like I was back previous to having all my troubles. And it was just, I was like, oh, wow, I'm cured. And then all of a sudden it went, and it died again. And I was like, oh, this is not good. So what did I do next? Next week, or 2 weeks later, I went back in, and they said, well, let me give you another injection, Chad, and we'll see if this second injection will help you, and we'll go from there. So they did another injection, and I was trying to blame the world as to why it didn't work. Maybe it was too much in a hurry. There was like 50,000 people in USC, and they were trying to get me in and out of there. I was there for like 2 hours, And I'm so grateful that he spent so much time with me. He spent hours with me, and I've never had any doctor spend that much time with me. And I was very appreciative of all he's doing for me. And so I had that one, and he said, you know what, Chad, go home, and we'll see if this one kicks in. And if it doesn't kick in, we're going to have to figure out some other strategies. So it ended up towards the end of December, I started having vertigo again, and they called me into the office the very next day, and they put me back on steroids, and they said, you know what, Chad, let me help you. And and he started saying, we need to discuss doing maybe a cochlear implant, and I can help you with your hearing, and you can be hearing again. I can't necessarily help you with your vertigo and things like that, but we're going to keep trying to treat you, and hopefully these treatments will remove some of the issues. So fast forward to January 2015, I had my hearing evaluation for my cochlear implant, and of course, I pretty much failed it. So it was a good thing that I did, and we scheduled my surgery for February 5th of 2015, and I had 2 weeks before my surgery, and got ready for my surgery, and insurance approval went right through, and went in, had my surgery. I had to wait 4 weeks for my activation, and lo and behold, activation went through, and it was, crazy when it first happened. I'll talk a little bit more about that in depth. But over the next few weeks, I got remapped again, and my hearing got even better. And then over the next 2 weeks, then I got remapped again, and it was like, wow, now I can actually understand people's speech, and I could hear in that ear. And both ears were working great together, and things were good again, because now I can understand people. And the use of the wireless equipment, which I'll talk about in later segments, really gave me the opportunity to get my life back in a way that I never knew it would be back. I thought at this point in time I'd be doing sign language and sitting around the house feeling sorry for myself, but no, I was at school, I was succeeding, I had my cochlear implant, I was forcing my brain to learn, I was pushing myself, and I was just hearing better and better and better every day. So over the next couple months, I've been remapped a few more times, and the next thing you know, I'm at 99% of my sentences, 86% of my sentences in noise, and 93% of my words. I'm doing even better now. I've had a couple issues with one electrode, so we've turned that one off, and now I'm kind of working on rehearing again, because when they change a couple of those electrodes, but you have to relearn. So right now, guys, I'm going to stop my story, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to talk about individual segments. So thanks for joining in with me, and when I come back, we're going to talk about cochlear implants versus hearing aids. Hello, and welcome back. In this segment, I want to talk about hearing aids versus cochlear implants. It's a big decision when you decide to make that jump from a hearing aid to a cochlear implant. So when you first get your hearing aids and your diagnosis being hard of hearing, a lot of people are mild to severe, or moderate to severe, or severe to profound, or profound. I want to talk about the later part, when hearing aids just aren't enough anymore, and your ears really don't sound like they used to. When the hearing aid becomes muffled, and you start having a loss in your discrimination, your scores drop below 50%, so that you're hearing one out of every other word, you're really starting to miss out on 50% of what everybody is trying to say to you. And it becomes a battle. It's not just any type of kind of a battle. It's a real struggle. It's exhausting. At the end of the day, you're just wore out. You're tired, and you're just like, oh man, I still have one hearing aid in my left ear. That hearing in that ear fluctuates from Meniere's disease, and I'll talk more about Meniere's disease in another section. But in my right ear, I have my cochlear implant. It was implanted in my ear. Then I lost my hearing in with a virus in 2009, and but it's just been amazing. I went from having 30% discrimination in an ear, then I only heard 3 out of 10 words. If I was lucky and in the perfect situation, in that quiet little box at the audiologist, you can pretty much hear a lot better than you could if you're out in public. And in noise, in that ear, I probably wasn't hearing much at all but noise. Or, if it wasn't the right volume, a loud enough volume, the hearing aids just weren't doing it anymore. And no matter how much I turned them up, no, it just made it worse. It didn't make it better. So hearing aids are great. hearing aids, they've done me wonders for the last 2 years, but in an ear that wasn't really working anymore, it didn't matter how much power you turned up, it didn't get better. And at that point, you need to make a decision, and am I, needing to get a hearing aid or another hearing aid or a powerful hearing aid, or should I look into getting a cochlear implant? Well, I'm going to talk about cochlear implants, and I didn't know anything really about cochlear implants until I met my friend Chris Hoffner. He saw that I was getting hearing aids, and we've been friends on Facebook playing different games like Mafia Wars, and we're on the same team. And his son has bilateral cochlear implants, and he's like, oh man, my son has cochlear implants. So we really hit it off and began talking about these things. And he was telling me how his son's born deaf, and then I get to see these videos of the success that his son had, and I was just blown away. And so when I put more research into cochlear implants, the thing about a cochlear implant is, unlike a hearing aid, which you lose your hearing and it'll just keep getting worse and worse and worse over time, a cochlear implant actually gets better and better and better over time as mapping and your brain relearns. You don't lose your hearing, actually gains back. So I'm late deafened in life, so I already had the ability to understand speech, and it's made my journey really quick and really fast. The better thing about having it done early, my doctor now, Dr. John Naparco, is advocating for at 60%. Because once you're losing 40%, you're almost at halfway. But most insurances at 90 decimal and 50% discrimination, you qualify. The thing is that I got my cochlear implant. I said, let's do it. And the sooner you do it, the faster your recovery time is, the faster you will relearn, the faster you'll be able to recognize the words. I put a ton of therapy into my cochlear implant, and at this point, I'm hearing better than I ever could have imagined with a hearing aid. The only difference between a cochlear implant is it sounds like a cochlear implant. It doesn't sound like your natural ear. Your natural ear has 25,000 little hair follicles that, when vibrated, they turn on little switches that shoot little electrical stimulation in the spiral ganglia, which then take the impulse to the cochlear nerve, and that's how you perceive hearing. Whereas a cochlear implant has the electrode that goes down into your cochlea. Each brand is a little bit different. I have cochlear brand, so it has 22 electrodes, and they shoot pulses to these little micro pulses at really fast speeds, and that's how they represent speech again. And you learn to perceive hearing like you did with the hearing, like with your hearing aids or with your natural hearing, but they don't really replicate low frequency like before. It takes a little bit of time to get that reverb down and all the different things like that. But over time, this thing has gotten more full, less nasally, cartoonish at first. It's a challenge at first. Some people say it sounds like Darth Vader, and some people say it sounds like Minnie Mouse. Some people say it sounds like they're talking on helium. But when I say map it and you learn, it all changes and it all goes away. And if you're thinking about doing it, you should. If you're worried about doing it for your child, there's nothing to worry about except for them gaining. If you're worried about losing your last little bit of hearing, I have to be honest with you, I need to have my left ear done. But I do like the little bit of residual hearing that I have, and it's a real struggle for me to decide, am I going to do this or not do it? But as soon as I'm able to, I'll probably be going bilateral with cochlear implants, because I actually think this is taken away. It's causing too much noise for my good ear, my cochlear implant ear, and it's causing my brain to fight and struggle over the different sounds. So, if you're really considering doing it, do it. Because as far as I know, everybody that I've talked to said, we wish we would have done it earlier. All right, guys, and this segment is coming to an end. And the next segment, I'm going to talk about, being scared about doing this and different things like that, and how I felt before I did it. So I'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back. Chad here. And I want to talk about the fears that are real and the feeling like I had, oh, well, am I going to be a monster with this thing stuck on the side of my head? You know, is it going to be crazy looking and freaky, or people going to be grossed out by it? You know, and it's very real to have those fears. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I worried about and a couple of things why I'm not worried about it anymore and what great success I've had. And then we'll go into talk about support after this. So, you know, the first thing I thought when cochlear implants, and you go and you look online and you see these things, and people have these things stuck way up on their head or in a funny place, and big scars, or these things used to be huge bananas stuck behind their ears, and the technology has come so far that they are relatively small now, and so many people walk up to me and say, oh, what kind of Bluetooth is that? I'm like, it's not a Bluetooth, it's my ear. And now they don't understand until I explain to them that, no, I have a cochlear implant and I no longer hear with my ear anymore. And I have a digital processor that takes the sound and sends it to the coil on the side of my head, and that coil then sends it through to another identical coil underneath the skin, which turns it into electrical impulses and stimulates my cochlear nerve. You know, I was freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh, what are women going to think about this thing stuck in my head? Are they going to want to date some guy with this crazy thing in his head? Well, everyone that I talk to now says, oh, that's stupid. It's not about that, Chad. And it's obviously not. So if you get turned down by someone that doesn't like your cochlear implant, well, guess what? They weren't made for you. It's pretty obvious. So don't stress over anything like that. And thought, well, is this thing going to hurt my head, or is it going to be hard surgery, or this? And we'll talk about surgery stuff here in a little bit in the next segment. But no, it's not painful, and no, it doesn't hurt, and no, I don't even notice it on my ear, and no, I don't really feel it when the coil's stuck in my head. It just flops back on, and the magnet is attracted to the magnet that's under my skin, and it's really no big deal. The big deal is that you can hear again. You know, it's not the easiest thing to do at first, and especially for those that have been profoundly deaf most of their life, it's going to be a lot of work. You know, I'm fortunate that I wasn't born deaf, so this has been an easy journey back for me. But I put a lot of work into it. You know, I have great knowledge, and I've done a lot of research and a lot of study. And all I can say to you is, if you're going to make this decision, do some research on your own, you know, ask a lot of questions. And that's where we're going to come into this next segment. We're going to talk about mental support and help. So I'll be right back, guys. Hey guys, Chad here, and welcome back. You know, I'm going to talk about mental support and getting help before you make the decision to do this. It's not an easy decision to do, but you need to be in the right place mentally. If you go into this not being ready for it or not knowing what to expect, it's going to be traumatic. It's going to be traumatic for those that have been hard of hearing most of their life to hear sound like you hear again. And there's going to be annoying sounds that are just going to bug the crap out of you if they say anything less. But, you know, it's just part of life. This is a really noisy world. And number one thing is, you know, make sure that your family and you are all on the same page. You know, I hear so many stories that, oh, I thought my family was for me to get this, and after I got it, they weren't. Or my friends totally disowned me because I've been deaf all my life and I wanted to get a cochlear implant, and they thought, oh, I'm you know, totally neglecting them because I want to be able to hear. And you know what, people, it is your choice. It's not up to anybody else. It's not up to your friends. It's not up to your family. It's a decision that's very personal and it's your own, and you have to make it for yourself. So you need to be in the right place, in the right position to be able to do so. And at the end of this segment, I'm going to throw up a bunch of links. I know that many people are probably in Facebook. There are a lot of groups that are out there that will support you, and you can ask thousands of different people. There's brand specific ones. There's ones for Cochlear. I'm a member of Cochlear Town USA, and for everybody in America that have Cochlear brand, you're welcome to come join that group, and we're going to run that little lower third right there, and you'll be able to see that link. There's others, Cochlear Implant Experience, which is worldwide in all brands. There's like 10,000 people in that group that you can talk with, and there's people from all different avenues that have been, hard of hearing all their life or had even implants for up to 30 years. There's other smaller ones, Cochlear Implant Experience. I think there's a couple, Medel, there's Advanced Bionics. There's ones for parents with children. So there's many different segments of ways of getting help. There's also a bunch of training programs out there that you need to know about that will help you with your journey. And at the end of this segment, I will also run a bunch of different pages where you can go and check out all this different therapy things that you will know what to expect. So you'll have a chance that once you get your implants, you'll be able to teach yourself and be able to come back. But when you get into these groups, a lot of them are really kind of like community, especially in Cochlear Town USA. We're like one big family. And you could ask these people intimate questions, and these people will answer you intimately about what their struggles were and what they went through and what to expect and what not to expect. And you really need to have that if you're going to go through with this experience. I mean, it's a life-altering, life-changing experience, and I just want to emphasize that you really need to get that help before and have that stable base. You want to be standing on solid foundation. You don't want to be going in, standing on the sand and have it just wither away underneath your feet. All right, guys, that's it for this segment. When we come back, we're going to talk about your doctors and your audiologist and what you should do and how you should be prepared with them. Hey guys, welcome back. I want to talk about your relationship with your ENT and your audiologist. It's really important that you're comfortable with the person that you're deciding to do the surgery on you. You have to also have a great relationship with your audiologist. I know it's tough with some insurances that you feel that you're stuck just going to one doctor, but it doesn't hurt to try to see another one if you're not comfortable. Fortunately for me, I fell into the lap of one of the best cochlear implant surgeons in the nation, John Naparco, and I have been absolutely blessed. You want a doctor that's going to take time with you, sit down with you, talk to you, explain to you what's going to happen so that you feel so comfortable that when you go into this process of having surgery, that there's no worries. I mean, my doctor sat down with me. I answered any of my stupid questions I asked. I asked a million of them, but he welcomely answered, he answered every single one. And it's important that you take that time and you build that relationship with your surgeon. You want your surgeon to have feelings, for you, so that when you go into that surgery, they're like, I really want to take care of this patient because I know what their struggle has been. I know what they're going through. You don't want to feel like another piece of meat, at least I didn't want to feel like another piece of meat. So I built a great relationship with my doctor, and I really respect him, and I feel he really respects me. So guys, if you're not that comfortable with your surgeon, see or talk to your insurance, or maybe you can go to another one and get another opinion and just have it checked out. Or if you're going to University Hospital, or if you're not going to University Hospital, or how big the clinics are, you'll really be able to find out by doing a lot of research. So it's really up to you to find the best for you, and it's a good thing to find the best, because you know what, you don't want maybe just when somebody that's like mediocre doing your surgery. I wanted the best, and fortunately I was given the best, and I feel so blessed. So that's one thing I want to talk about, that with your doctor. So if you have a PPO insurance, you can choose the doctor you want to go to. So if you have to try another hour, do it, if it makes you feel comfortable. there's lots of different universities in these bigger cities. I know some people live far away from these cities, but if you have places like Mayo Clinic or Johns Hopkins or USC or UCLA or House, those are great places to go. I mean, there's places in Iowa that are amazing. They're all over, all these university hospitals. So make sure that you are satisfied with who's doing your surgery. And when it comes to your audiologist, the same thing. You guys have to have a relationship that is this symbiont relationship, because they are in control of what you hear. You're not allowed to go over there and get on the computer and do all the adjusting. They are. So if you guys can't communicate, if you can't have that bond or understand what each person is saying, it'll make it more difficult. So please don't sit there and be quiet. If you have a question or you feeling something or you don't know, please bring these things to your audiologist and talk to them. They're more than willing to want to help you. They are in the business to help you hear better. But if you don't tell them what you're hearing, or if you don't communicate what you're hearing very well to them, how can they help you? So I know it's a very tough thing to, express what you're going through or to do whatever, but you need to. And it doesn't matter if you cry or if you're mad, just get it out and talk with your audiologist so that they understand and so that you understand what is happening. I send my audiologist emails and I tell her what I expect or what I want to do when I come into it. So be prepared, and it's worked out really great. I have a bunch of maps. Each one is set kind of how I want it, because I've done a lot of research and I've taken the time to understand. I'm going to talk more about maps later in this segment after we talk about pre-surgery and post-surgery. So we'll be right back with pre-surgery stuff that you should know. Hey guys, welcome back. And in this segment, I want to talk about pre-surgery things that you should know. Everybody goes into these surgeries and they're asking hundreds of questions. Hey, Chad, what do I need to know before I go on this surgery? Well, you need to know that you need to be prepared on a lot of different levels. The more prepared you are, the easier this is going to be, whether you're going to have people there with you to help, or if you're on your own and you're going to have people dropping by. It's two different whole worlds. So let's talk about some of the things that I wanted to know before, and maybe some of the things that I've been asked, and see if I can't help you make this pre-surgery thing a lot easier. One thing you want to do, especially if you're on your own, is to make sure that, stupid things like laundry. You've gone grocery shopping and you have meals that are very simple for you to prepare. You might be having, taste issues or nausea issues or things like that. So in your post-surgery, so you want to prepare for that stuff. Like if you want to buy, Jell-Os and yogurts and fruits, and sometimes after you have the surgery, you will have taste sensation issues on your tongue. So some foods won't taste right afterwards. So be prepared for that coming into it. Those things usually go away after a few weeks. Sometimes it might take a month, but it's just all because all the work they've been doing is a lot around your facial nerve and your taste nerves and all that stuff like that. So that overstimulation can cause issues. So other things to be prepared for, your bed. At first, when you go to lay back down after a surgery, it feels like your head is full of fluid, and it is. And when you sit up, your eustachian tube is usually able to drain that fluid down through your throat, and you don't even know. So, but when you lay back, you have a chance of that fluid accumulating and kind of rushing back into your head, and it'll hurt, So a lot of people say, get if you don't have a recliner or a medical bed, get extra pillows so that you're seated up when you go to sleep, because laying back I'm telling you, it's going to be difficult for the first couple of days. Some people probably don't have a big problem with it, but I did, and fortunately I have a medical bed, and I just jack that sucker up, and I just kind of lean back sitting up. Other things that you could do are neck pillows. There's those little round ones that you can wrap around your neck, or I have one that looks like the dog bones, where they're built up on the four corners on the outside. And I just put that thing right around my neck, and it just holds my head, and That first night, all I wanted was something to hold my neck after a while because I was so tired and I was just ready for sleep, and it'd been a long drive home. So I put that little pillow in there, and I didn't have to worry about a big pillow pushing on my head or causing adverse effects on it. And I was able to sleep like a baby. And I tried laying back the next day, and it didn't really work for me. So, you know, some of you might take 3, 4, maybe 5 days before you can lay completely down. Everybody's different. Everybody's surgery is going to be different. Some people don't feel pain like other people do. You know, I used pain medication for I think 3 to 4 days. I think the 4th day I stopped. After that, I was just using some Tylenol, or I would use ibuprofen and mix those two, and it really did wonders for me. Other things you should know is clothing. You know, you're going to have a bandage on your head. Some people have it wrapped, or I have the little cone. I will show you pictures of that. You know, but things you can get over your head easy, you know. Things like if you're going to be sick after surgery, to have a trash can with a plastic bag by your bed. I mean, simple things like this are going to make this whole thing a lot easier. Have your restroom set up so that it's easy for you to get to. You might have vertigo issues afterwards, and if you do, you want to be able to get there without running anything or tripping or anything. You want to be able to maybe have things where you can hold yourself up as you walk to get to those areas to do whatever you need. Also, you know, let your family in on this. Have them watch this video too, so that they may understand what you're going to be going through. You know, it's a big thing to have an implant put in your head. It's not the hardest surgery. It's not the worst surgery. You're not having a lot of muscles cut through. You will have some achiness, but you can have balance issues. You can have taste issues. So, you know, I just wanted to go over a few of those things with you guys and what to expect. So the better prepared you are, the better off your surgery is going to go. The less stress you have when you come out of surgery, it'll make night and day for you. So if you don't have to struggle when you come out and you're just comfortable and you can relax, your healing is going to go that much faster, and you will recover that much quicker, and you get right back to your normal self. All right, guys, when I come back, I'm going to talk about post-op, you know, stuff. And it'll kind of run into some of the stuff I've talked about, but we'll get through this. Hey guys, welcome back. And in this segment, I want to talk about post-surgery and what to expect afterwards. I covered some of this stuff in the pre-surgery stuff, but let's go over it again. So afterwards, you know, you will have stiff neck, pain. You will definitely know that you had something done to your head. Some people will have numbness in their face or on their tongue, or maybe a black and blue mark that comes up underneath an eye or on your neck. Some of you will have a little bit of bleeding afterwards. You know, I did when I got to the hospital. I was so hungry. Then on the way home, we stopped at McDonald's and I got some food. And yes, my food tasted horrible because I did have a spot on my tongue that made things not taste right. But, you know, I chewed my food and I was just grubbing. And I squeezed out some blood. And it was a little bit traumatic at first. I was like, wow. And I'll throw a picture up there real quick to show you guys. Hope you don't get grossed out by it. It's not too bad. But I just want you guys to understand a few different things. So what to expect after surgery. You expect moderate pain. Nothing too bad that your pain medication won't take care of. You know, don't be afraid to take it. You want to be on a consistent basis with all these things. And with pain medication, you might want to ask your doctor for stool softener. My doctor gave that to me. It was like a miracle treatment because after you come out of surgery, your bowels are slower, plus you're taking pain medication, which doesn't help that. So having that stool softener for when you go, you definitely do not want to push when you have to go afterwards, you know, because you'll feel like your head's going to pop. But, you know, when you go to sleep, you want to make sure that you have the neck pillows. You want to be comfortable. You want to be able to sit up because laying back is going to be difficult for most people. You will have some bleeding, and over time on your incision, you know, there's lots of different types of surgery types. A lot of people are stapled. Some are stitched on the outside. Some are only stitched on the inside with a little glue on the outside. Some with no glue. I was just internal stitches with nothing. I had my compression bandage on for 48 hours. Some doctors require it longer, some don't. And then they say, well, some say you can shower immediately. Others say you can't. Others will have the sanding tapes on their ear, on their skin like they do for plastic surgery and things like that. So there's different requirements. Talk to your doctor about those things so that you understand what you'll need to know once you've had this surgery. It's always good to keep those lines of communication open up. No question is a bad question when it comes to you. Remember that. No question is a bad question when it pertains to your life and what's going to be affecting your life. So ask these questions to your doctor, ask them to the nurses, do whatever you've got to do to be prepared for those things. Other things too, your food. Sometimes your taste is going to be off. So food's not going to taste great to you, or it will taste great to you, or it might be salty or have a little metallic taste. But those spots in your tongue will usually go away in the next 2 to 3 or 4 weeks as the swelling in your head goes down. Just pay attention to what's going on with your body. Some of you will have vertigo afterwards. I was fortunate. I have Meniere's disease, and I didn't have vertigo. So what a great thing. I was like, whoo, I survived without having to get dizzy afterwards. That was wonderful. I had a relatively easy comeback. 5 days later, I was back at school. Some people are back doing their normal stuff in 3 days. Some takes 2 weeks. It really depends on what kind of stuff they do in your surgery. If you have calcification in your ear and they have to do a major, opening of your ear again, get the electrode in, or do anything more than just the regular amount of surgery, everything's going to require a bit more. So the more invasive your surgery is, the longer your recovery, the less invasive your surgery is, the faster your recovery. Just don't be afraid to ask these questions, or, like I said, get on these boards and talk to people about their experience. Somebody will have the same kind of experience that you have. There's so many of us now out there. There's so many of us on these different boards on Facebook and different things like that, where you can talk with these people and they've shared the same experience with you guys. What else do we want to know? Clear paths to your restroom, food prepped, ready to go for you. Make sure that your family is understanding. Make sure that you have loose-fitting clothes so that it's easy to get off over your head. The last thing you want to do is be yanking on your ear after you just had surgery on it. It's not a very fun thing. So if you have button-up shirts, maybe wear a button-up shirt. Things like that. So just the more prepared you are going into this, guys, the better off you are. Sleeping in a raised bed is going to be a wonder for you, or a recliner for the first few days until you can get used to the pressure that's in your ear, or the pressure has gone down some as you recover in time. So guys, that's it on this segment. Any other questions, please feel free to put it in the comments down below, and I will try to answer your questions as best as I can. Thanks for joining. Hey guys, welcome back. I want to talk about Meniere's disease. What a horrific, terrible disease. It changes people's lives. It's in such amazing way. Besides going deaf, having to deal with vertigo and all the other tinnitus issues and hearing issues. So what is Meniere's disease, Jen? Well, I'm not a doctor, but I'm going to try to break it down best I can for you so that you understand. At least this is the way I understand it. So Meniere's disease is a disease that is based on a few different symptoms. One symptom is fullness of the inner ear. Feel like you have a lot of pressure in the inner ear. With that fullness becomes severe tinnitus. That tinnitus is not just a little bit, it is really loud. And it's usually a lower tone. It's not the really high pitched one that most people get from their high frequency hearing loss, but it's a lower one. So it's a boo, and it just blanks out everything. Third one is low frequency hearing loss. So a lot of people, when you get your hearing test or your audiogram, it'll start off and it drops off in your high frequencies, and it's really high in your low. But in mine, it's actually reverse. So it starts off really low in my low frequency and goes up high back in my high frequencies. And it doesn't really go that high anymore because over time, Meniere's is damaging my ear and it's robbing me of my hearing. The last and worst symptom of Meniere's disease is vertigo. What nightmare vertigo is, and so many people have it a lot worse than I do. When I get my vertigo, it's not as much rotational as I feel like I'm falling backwards. A lot of people get it, and it's just everything just spins, and you can't do anything but virtually fall on the ground and take your little fetal position and try not to be sick. And I can't imagine having to deal with that all the time. But I have balance disorder from mine, so every once in a while I'm a little bit dizzy. Even this morning before I came here in the studio, I was sitting at my desk and it's like, whoa. I'm like, oh, please don't go. Just go away. Don't come back. I have too much to get done here. So what happens with Meniere's disease? I mean, you start off, with me, I started off having the symptoms of the tinnitus, and, well, wait a minute, I can't really hear when that tinnitus is ringing, and everything sounds distorted. My ears became sounding like a broken speaker. It was just a terrible thing. But I didn't have that last symptom of vertigo, so they didn't call it Meniere's disease at first. It was endolymphatic hydrops. And what it is in the inside of your ear, you have endolymph fluid, and that fluid is engulfed in your inner ear, and it's causing pressure in your cochlea on your spiral ganglia, or not your spiral, on your organ of Corti, and it causes the hair follicles not to be able to move properly because of the pressure that's in there. So what happens is your low frequency hearing drops out. It also has issues in your semicircular canals and your vestibule being swollen. It causes different problems with vertigo, and that's where you get the drop vertigo. Some people are just automatically thrown on the ground and they can't do anything. They can't get up, they can't walk, they can't drive. And the thing about Meniere's disease, it's a hidden disease. No one knows you have it. You can't see it on your skin. You can't get really any treatment for it. There's no cure for Meniere's, but all we can do is try to treat our symptoms, with low salt diets. You want to make sure that the foods that you're eating are good for you and not bad for you. Look at me, I'm Mr. Example of skinny over here. But the steroids that we have to take, they really are not a good thing. So if we can avoid having to get to this point of having to take steroids or any of the other drugs that they use to treat Meniere's disease, it'll save you a lot of heartache down the road. I mean, this year alone, I've taken enough steroids and I don't want to take any more the rest of my life. It's a struggle with weight and everything like that, but they do help. I've had 3 intertympanic injections of dexamethasone in my inner ear in order to remove the swelling that's in there. And why they do the intertympanic injection is so that it's steroids right at the source of the problem and not through the rest of your body, which is something that's very difficult to handle. So once you go through all these different treatments, you kind of have to sit down and realize what's going on in your body and do the best you can to function and understand what your limitations are and what your limitations aren't, and be prepared, like I was saying, with your low salt diet and things like that. Meniere's is such a terrible disease. So I'm going to end there with this, guys. Thanks for joining.